Hi, Tom.
Hey, you're getting fancy on me.
Getting a little fancy. I know. It's fun, all these things I keep learning and
Yep.
keeps everything moving up here, right?
Yes.
All this learning and doing. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. And I am so happy and blessed, Tom, to have you back. And
I'm happy to be back.
yay. And talking about this next book of yours, called The First Contact. But how are you doing? Before that, how are you doing? How are things?
Doing fine. This has been like a one-arm paper hanger day where I was getting the newsletter out and looking at a contract and suddenly a friend of mine called and said, "Let's go to lunch." So zoomy.
And I can tell you guys, and I'm going to share what the newsletter looks like later, so you can see the time that Tom puts in these newsletters, and it's just absolutely fabulous. And so I'm just kind of
free.
And they're free, and so you can just sign up. And I put the link at the top, you guys. I pinned it, so the link is there. You just click on it and subscribe. It's free, and you have his newsletter with a wealth of information, and beautifully done, Tom. I mean, the time that you put into that is just kind and loving to all of us.
It's my gift.
And thank you for that. I was just seeing, Patrice bought 1, 2, and 3 versions of The Gentle Way, already feeling a spiritual zoom. That's incredible.
Oh, that's nice.
Libra lady says that she requested an MBO today for a vet appointment for her cat. Thank you. I can't tell you how many conversations or lives I'm in where people will say, "I'm an MBO. I did an MBO for this," and so you have really shifted and helped this community, Tom. And so we are all just so grateful to you for that.
And hopefully it'll continue to grow.
And yeah, because we're going to pass the word.
People's lives literally better. Really does.
Viviane, thank you. And Bill says he has followed you for many years. Doing the BPs brings you joy and happiness as well. So helping others is so powerful. Yeah. Yep. I did this with a group of people today for someone else. So it's just incredible. Hypnicity wants to know what an MBO is. So welcome, you're in the right place, Hypnicity. Most benevolent outcome. And this is something that Tom has written about in his books. And
we have a whole interview on it too.
Yeah, a whole interview on it. The last couple interviews we have talked about the MBOs, but it's the most benevolent outcome prayer. And so there you go. Terry.
Real easy one. Anybody can do. You just say it out loud and be amazed at the results.
Okay. So she got it. So yeah. So just praying the most benevolent outcome in any situation or for others or however you want to do it. It's just amazing. So we are just so grateful to that, to you for passing that along from your spirit team to us. So, all right. Well, I think we can kind of get started here. So for those of you who do not know Tom, here's Tom Timor. He is a telepath and an author of 5 books, including the Gentle Way series.
6. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. 6.
I may have goofed and not added
right, because the 3 Gentle Ways.
There's 4 Gentle Ways now.
There's 4.
Yeah, with the pet book.
Oh, so if there's 4, then you have 7 books.
6. 4 Gentle Way books. Then we've got Atlantis and Lemuria and First Contact Conversations with them.
Okay. I was thinking of the pets. I was thinking of the pet one as being separate. All right. So anyways, he knows how many books he has, you guys. I'm not going to talk him into it. Okay. So including the Gentle Way series, and he was voted best self-help author for 3 years by the readers of Health magazine. He is also the author of The First Contact, Conversations with an E.T., and Atlantis and Lemuria, The Lost Continents Revealed. He has detailed knowledge of E.T.s and the destruction of 2 continents, and he also he has channeled over 30,000, right?
I've asked 30,000 questions
30,000 questions he's
in a
asked
meditative state.
in
Yeah.
a meditative state, you guys, and received answers. And that's what
That's how these books.
that's how these books have come up. So if you're not big on reading like chapters and books, chapter books and staying awake, you can't help but stay awake with these, because it's literally questions and answers. And so it's
Just build.
awesome to read. It's uplifting.
And all these, 90% of these questions came from people reading my newsletter, and they said, "Oh, I need to ask a question about that." And, "Oh, I want to ask that question." So that's how these books all derive, because everybody has questions, and there's no way in the world that I could possibly think of all the questions to ask that the readers of my newsletters. And they come from all over the world. What are you looking at?
I'm trying to, okay. I'm bringing up the page I want to share in a minute. So
okay.
It just wasn't showing. Angela is asking Tom, I assume we can use that, whatever language. So whether.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Genoway book, the first book, has been translated into Spanish, Greek, German. I'm probably missing one. Haven't gotten French yet. Keep trying to get a French publisher. Haven't been able to. But German, Greek, Spanish, got those so far.
So the answer is yes. And I love it. Okay, so we have Catherine, who said, I just read your book and I'm sure I'm going to read it again and again. That's another thing about it too, is you can, and it just builds an up.
Yeah, it just has stories.
And
Generally, when I wound up writing that, it was just stories mostly, because when I was first told that I was going to write books, which was quite surprising, I thought maybe I can get one book. And so I went back and started thinking of all the times that I had requested benevolent outcomes in my travels for my international film and TV program distribution business. And that's kind of how it started. I mean, there were mostly that with some, some stories sent to me from people. A couple I even remember to this day. But then it really picked up by the Genoway 2, and then especially Genoway 3 has nothing but stories, all arranged in the chapters.
And I feel like stories really build your faith. And so when you're praying the most benevolent outcome for any situation in your own life, after reading these stories, your faith is built, and you can really step into the energy of that outcome, because you've seen through others' stories that it really does move.
And the Genoway 3, I mean, maybe I have 5 or 10 stories in there, I don't know, but all these stories came to me from my readers of my newsletters, sent to me each week. And what I do with those stories, first they go into a blog that's on Saturday called the Genoway blog, and then they appear the next week in the newsletter. And then once a month, I compile all the stories that were in the blog and I send them into the Sedona Journal of Emergence, and they will choose however many they can fit, depending
Yeah.
on page requirements,
Yeah.
into their magazine. And so these stories live on forever. I mean, I've had people saying, "Oh, one of my stories showed up 10 years ago," or whatever. So
Yeah. Um, so Snowy Girl here says, I keep asking to win a game in bingo, not happening. Australian. So she's in Australia.
keep at it. I won half of a $8,400 pot playing bingo, and just in this last newsletter, I had a guy that said he had been playing poker every Friday night for 20 years, had never ever won, and so the day before the Friday night poker game, he requested a benevolent outcome to win at poker, and he won for the first time ever. He said, "Wow."
So keep doing it, Snowy Girl. You got this. You got this. It'll be the perfect timing.
Yep.
And she said, I know. She said, LOL. I've read your book.
Right.
Yeah. So Vivian wants, and I know T Barb wrote it out in the chat for everyone, a sample prayer. But Vivian says, would you please give an example of a prayer, how that is spoken?
Okay. Like the guy at poker, he said, "I request a most benevolent outcome to win tomorrow night at poker. Thank you."
Thank
And you
you.
say it out loud. Or you say, "I request a most benevolent outcome for a parking space in front of, some busy restaurant," or whatever you want to say. Thank you. But you don't say it as you're driving into the parking lot. You say
Before.
before. That gives your guardian angel a chance to drag somebody out of that restaurant and put them in their car.
Right.
They're backing up as you come in.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you elaborate more on the four sorrows, or something we're supposed to be learning specific to the Earth experience?
The four negative. It's not the four sorrows, but
Oh,
there are four negative energies. Our souls volunteered to take part in the Earth experiment. Now, the creator of this universe, okay, and as we'll get into the First Contact book, um, we're veiled from knowing anything. We start off with almost a clean slate every single time. But the E.T.s they're not veiled, so they know there's really a creator of this universe. And so the creator wanted to do an experiment using nothing but the four negative energies, which none of the trillions of universes had ever been able to use, ever been able to exist in. They're just too difficult. But creator thought they could be worked with. And so uh, the Earth experiment was born. Only our solar system in this special space-time continuum is in these four negative energies. All the rest of our universe and the other trillions of universes are all exist in 10 positive energies. So that's the difference. Now our souls were promised fast tracking, raising our vibrational levels. So this is what all souls aspire to. And in the long run, and we're talking about probably several million years from now, our souls will meld together. All the souls that took part in the Earth experiment will meld together, and we will form a creator, which has never been done in any of those trillions of other universes. And we will take over running this universe and allow creator to go to a higher level. And so that's what we've been promised for, slogging through all these lives where we have to have an equal number bad lives against an equal
Oh,
number of good
okay.
lives, because we have to be like a theatrical troupe where one time we're the villain, the next time they're the hero, and the next time we're just part of the supporting cast.
Got it. I hope that helped, Marin.
Hope it wasn't too long-winded.
Okay. Let's see. Do you know? Okay. Okay. I feel like another question can. I think we're gonna get into this. It might be part of what you're already going to be talking about, but here's a question. It says, Tom, can you tell us when we will be presented with the actual meeting of E.T.s?
Yeah, we can get into that. Maybe not right this minute. We'll kind of flow into that question.
Okay. All right. So we're going to float. We're going to get there, Holly. Thanks for the question. You're stepping ahead of us.
You're moving fast, Holly.
Okay. And did atomic bombs affect the dimensional timeline?
Not as far as I know.
Okay.
I have not received any information on that.
Okay. And T-Barb has a question here. I feel like it's a follow-up what you were describing. So will we be creators, but source will still be source?
Source is another word for creator.
Okay.
That's what creator told me, or Gaia, one of the two. Because besides my own guardian angel, I talk to Gaia and Theo, and then a variety of other beings. And I mean, I've talked to Sun. He likes to be called Sun because he says if you call me anything else, there will be a certain group of people that will say, see, uh, we're the right religion because he used that name. And Luna, you can speak all the planets, all the suns in the universe, all are in soul. They just have different interests than we do. When I speak to Sun, it's like I'm speaking to a physicist. He has to dumb down his answers to me because I got my degree in finance. I am so unscientific, let me tell you. So so there's all these beings that you can speak to besides your own guardian angel, and that's the fantastic. I'm supposed to push everybody to start meditating yourself, and because everybody can do exactly what I do, because everyone has the pineal gland in the back of your heads, and the scientists only know that it secretes melatonin, but it also acts as the antenna for all telepathic type information. You name anything, whether it's called channeled or clairvoyance or anything, and it goes through that pineal gland in the back of our heads. Okay, so.
And have they given you any exercises that we can exercise and really strengthen in utilizing that gland?
When I first started meditating, I would ask, now, Theo, am I getting better at receiving? And every single time he'd say, practice, 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 practice. And he said that so many times, I finally gave up and just said, okay, I'll just keep on doing the best I can. And I estimate that I'm somewhere in the 80 or 90% area. Sometimes I'm higher, sometimes I'm lower. It all depends on things like the sun and the moon and the transits of Jupiter and Saturn and these planets Mars that can interfere. And I was told, Tom, when I asked, I said, I know I know trance channels that will not channel at certain times of the month. And they said, we don't want you to do that, Tom. We want you to push on and do it every single time that you can. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been starring the questions that have been coming in, and we're going to come back to the questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and pop them in. I'm going to go ahead and star them. We're going to come back to them.
Yeah. Let's start on first contact.
And we're going to start on the first contact.
Where is it?
Yeah.
There we are. Conversations with an E.T.
Yep. There it is. So this is the book. And
so I'll kind of explain to everybody how I got to talking with the E.T.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So one day back in 2008, my guardian angel, who I named Theo because he said humans don't have the vocal cords to pronounce angelic names, and we're not very big on names over here. So you could call me Tom, Dick, or Harry, but Tom will be difficult in your meditations. So one day we were talking and are communicating, and because I received these thought packets, that's what they're called, and they're processed through that antenna back into our brain, and we were talking about some ruins on the other side of the world somewhere. I can't remember now, and he said, Tom, you'll get to see those one day. And I said, oh, I will. He said, yeah. He said, there's an ET that's monitoring our conversation. Would you like to talk to him?
Oh.
And I was shocked because I thought I was having a private conversation with my own guardian angel, and here I'm on a party line, and where anybody can listen. And I found out lots of people do since that time. But they all do it out of love. That's what I'm told. And because they want to know how the Earth race, we're called the Explorer race, how the Explorer race is progressing. How fast are we learning? How fast are we learning to accept the idea that we're not the only intelligent species in the whole universe filled with trillions and trillions of planets? Mm-hmm. So finally, so after I got over my shock, I said, no, let me come up with some questions, and I'll come back to you in a couple of weeks. Well, now what happens is that I have a notebook, and I put down questions. And so a couple of weeks later, I compiled questions to start asking the ET. And to make a long story short, it turns out that his name is Antura. I had a terrible time with names. I really do. I'm so envious of trance channels or whatever that can actually get names. I have a hard time with that. And so I said Antu, and finally one day he said no, Antura. Oh, good. I finally got it. And so he went on to explain to me, as I asked these questions and many more after that, I thought I'd heard all along that supposedly the first ETs that we were going to meet were going to look just like us, except maybe have pointed ears, like Spock. And so when he said, Tom, he said, I'm under the same rules that Theo and Gaia and all are on, you have to ask me specific questions. I cannot answer a general question like, well, what do you look like? Okay. You have to go right down every single part of my body if you want to know.
And you did that, correct?
I did that, although I discovered years later I forgot to ask him if he had a tail. And he actually has kind of like a little triangle tail. I assume that probably helps him because I didn't mention he's an amphibian.
Okay.
So that's the other little surprise I had. And he's the amphibian. If anyone has seen the Abe Sapien character, I think you may have that.
Oh, I do.
Slide. He looks a little bit like him, and I'll try and describe some of the differences if you want to put it on. Or
yeah, let me pull him up here.
Okay. So I can give you some stuff. First of all, the man that plays the Abe Sapien character in the Hellboy movies has obviously 5 fingers, and Tura only has 4, and the small finger, which would actually be longer for him, is offset, and that sort of becomes his thumb. So they don't have thumbs; they have fingers, but one is offset. Okay, for grasping things. I've never read any science fiction article or anything that has the concept of having 4 fingers with one of them offset. He only has 1 gill. Now, Abe Sapien, have we found it yet?
Nope. But I'll find it. Don't worry. I thought I had it in the thing.
Abe Sapien has, I'm losing my thought train. He obviously has webbed fingers and webbed feet. Let's see, what else I'm forgetting? He has only 1 gill, and that's sort of behind one ear, where the Abe Sapien character has big gills on either side. And the color of his skin is more like a dolphin, a dark blue whale color, kind of, not the stripes like Abe Sapien is depicted as having. And what else? He's of course he has these unusual eyes that he tells me they're more fish than mammal because they actually live at a mile down. They originally, when they settled the planet Nomo, which is the 3rd sun, let's see, am I correct? The 3rd planet from the sun in the Sirius B star system. It's a water planet, only 10% land, although it is occupied by an E.T. Species. But these amphibians settled this planet 18 million years ago, and oops, there he is.
There he is.
I don't know if we can.
I know it's kind of small, but that's
small. C'est la vie. But you get an idea. That's kind of what he looked like, and he thinks his eyes are better looking than Abe Sapiens, and of course he has webbed feet. I think they're only maybe four toes, something like that. So they're, but at least that's the closest I could find of anything that I could compare it to on Earth.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Science fiction movie.
That's pretty close.
So, now he, as I say, they're more fish than mammal. They live a mile down in this ocean in on Nomo, and their cities are bubbles, and they're built on top of caverns. When they first settled the planet, um, I was told I was one of the first to have a life on this planet, and didn't last probably very long because it turns out there's these big whale creatures that love to eat little amphibians. Now, we weren't amphibians when we started out, just fish, and developed that over several million years and started coming up on the land that was there. And that was one of the things we developed. So uh, they have to have bodies that are more like fish in order to stand the great pressure of living at a mile or swimming around at a mile beneath the ocean. So that's where they are. Now there's 25 planets or so in Antura's solar system. That's Sirius B. And I've had a couple of people write me and say, "There's no way that Sirius B could have planets. It's a blue dwarf. It's only the size of Earth and yada yada." But Antura says, "No, there really are planets, and you will discover that someday when you start reaching the stars, and that will not happen until 3250, even though people in science fiction movies and all say, oh, it's going to be 2200, 24 or 500. It won't. It'll be 3250. And that's when you'll finally learn what's called portal hopping." And I said, "Well, what's portal hopping?" And he said there's basically this band of energy between planets and suns and galaxies, and basically you portal hop using this energy, which our scientists will take a long time, obviously, to discover. And in fact, there will be one spaceship that will launch from Earth going the normal kind of fast, speedy way, almost like the speed of light, and they'll be halfway through their mission, headed towards this other planet that they picked out that looked like it was livable, and they'll discover, and that's when portal hopping will be done, and there'll be a ship that will be sent to for them to decide whether they want to continue on because the planet's not that great, or come back with them or whatever. And so that's going to be something that happens around 3250.
3250.
Right. And I'm supposed to have a life in the 3400 area, which is seems to be an important period of time for whatever reason. And I'm going to be a female space pilot of one of 17 Earth starships, and now we'll have smaller crews. We'll be more like the size of the Enterprise as compared to Antura's mothership, which I'll get into in a minute. We'll have a crew of maybe 350 or so, not that large a ship, and we will go portal hopping across the universe. And I said, "Well, explain this portal hopping." And he said, "Tom," he said, "it's like a Southwest Airlines plane that leaves Orlando, Florida, and makes a couple of stops on the way over to California." And I said, I expressed surprise. He said, "Tom, we know everything about you, and I learned more and more about how much they do know as the years progressed, and I asked more and more questions."
Now, speaking of Star Wars, did he ever compare to help explain things? Did he ever compare our Star Wars or to help explain what's?
Okay. I'll explain the Star Wars. Okay.
Oh, but not the Okay, so I know there's Star Wars. I know there's been wars in the stars, right? And it lasted. But did you ever watch Star Wars? I mean, did he ever like take
And
from what we know?
they
Okay.
said, you know, the people that wrote these stories and everything
Okay.
were basically tuning in to previous lives, and so maybe they didn't get it, you know, exactly right,
Or Star
especially
Trek, yeah.
when you have to start having beings that don't look like you, uh, and at the time when they started doing these, they would dress them up as best they could to make them look like E.T.s. Um, but they did tune in, and
yeah, that's what we all been wondering. Like,
yeah,
where do these characters come from? I mean, just on the picture I just showed in that, you know, you have all the Star Trek characters, and like, how did they must have been, like you said, tuning in and getting some of these
yeah.
descriptions.
So the real Star Wars, okay.
The real Star Wars, though.
Now I have to explain one thing. Universal years, or I should say, Earth years, are 10 times faster than universal years because they're wanting us to try and catch up with the rest of the universe scientifically. And so we're having these really, really fast lives, bang, 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 bang. Um, and they're still speeding up time. Gaia says she will speed up time for a little bit more, and then there'll just be short corrections after that. So, um, this real Star Wars took place and it lasted for 27,000 universal years, which is 270,000 Earth years. This was a terrible war.
I'm
And
surprised anything made it through.
yeah, you'd wonder. And so the uh, what happened was that the reptilian race, the Dracos, as I was to learn after the book, I didn't call them Dracos in the book. I learned this afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
The Dracos, reptilians, came and they wanted to start taking over planets to utilize whatever minerals or assets or whatever they needed. And that started the Star Wars that lasted for thousands and thousands of years. And as you might have read in that newsletter that I just sent out today, I'd ask another question about it. And I was told that um, the that some souls, well, first of all, there were hundreds during the war. There were hundreds of suns and thousands of planets that were destroyed on both sides, and people lived their whole lives because ETs typically will live 1,000 or 1,500 universal years,
Yeah.
and they lived their whole lives under the threat that one day they would wake up and there would be a enemy ship that was about to blow up their sun along with all the planets that circled or orbited the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And some souls actually had that happen to them more than once.
Wow.
So they were kind of unlucky. So, you know, um, that was the Star Wars, and it dragged on and dragged on, and so on Nomo, I'm told that I incarnate over and over again as some type of spiritual leader, sort of like the Dalai Lama, to give some type of comparison,
Mm-hmm.
and so I finally, they weren't doing very well, this Federation of Planets. I might mention that in order not to scare us, okay, to make us afraid, um, they compressed or they reduced the number of planets in the Federation. There's actually, in the book, I say it's 200 because they didn't want to frighten people. If you say there's 20,000 planets, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, they're going to attack us or something. No, no, no. So these 20,000 planets that were not a full federation, but they were kind of joining together to try and fight the the alien invasion,
Mm-hmm.
reptilian invasion. Um, they they weren't doing so well, and so uh, as a spiritual leader, I suggested, now keep in mind, ETs have the ability to manipulate souls. Okay, I've even asked just recently. Well, when we start creating androids, which is going to be like 3 or 4 thousand years from now, when I mean an android, I mean a fully perfect human being. Okay, the ETs are still going to help us ensoul those bodies because we will not have learned how to do that yet. That's something far in our future. Okay, so um, I suggested that as part of the Earth experiment that was just being worked on, that uh, we would invite the reptilians as part of peace to ensoul 10% of the souls having Earth lives as part of the explorer race. And it was turned down. And I was told, and I thought, well, maybe it was because I was this little amphibian, and Tura said, no, there's other amphibians on other planets. It was just that they hated the reptilians so just
Oh.
absolutely
Mm-hmm.
hated them so much that it was turned down. 450 universal years go by. Things are not any better. In fact, they're worse. And finally, they said, "Okay, we'll try your suggestion," and they did. And the reptilians said yes, they would go to peace if they could have 10% of the souls having lives on Earth. So um, that sort of uh, punched my ticket, so to speak.
Yeah.
That I was basically allowed to choose what I wanted to do in my Earth lives, which was my sole interest are religions,
Mm-hmm.
and also to advise world leaders, because since I was advising the Federation not only and help ended the Star Wars, but I was advising him on other things, and I said, well, what other things? And he said, Tom, he said, you wouldn't understand. They're just kind of things beyond you. And I said, okay. And so, since that was the case, all the souls that wanted to become leaders of countries and all, they wanted me to be around to help advise them. And so that's my other sole interest, which is not so far in this life, and I don't think it probably will be. It's only in future lives where I've actually been meeting several of the people that will become world leaders in this life on a casual basis, and in the future I will help advise them, whether they're a religious leader or whether they are a leader of a country. So that's
Very cool.
what I'm supposed to do. Now that sounds pretty wild, but all I can tell you, that's what I've been told, and it took a long time for me to gather my poor brain around that one.
I bet. I mean, it's all kind of all mind blowing. So, um, but are you in the belief that the negative species have been kind of kicked off Earth at this point?
Oh, when the Earth experiment first started, the reptilian souls kind of tried, oh, well, we'll just kind of take over, uh, but they quickly found out that if they, were having a bad life, they'd have to have a really good life after that. So they had to all balance.
Mm.
Everything has to balance. They can't
Hmm.
can't be out of balance. And so that took a few times, but they got on with the program, so to speak.
Wow. Okay. Um, okay. Some have. Terry says some has progressed. Um, You have a lot of questions in here that I've starred, but before we get to them, now, is there only Federation planets now in this galaxy, or other?
No, there's our Federation. I call it ours because that's the one that Earth will be part of. These 20,000 planets. Okay, so there's other federations. There's at least 2 or 3 more in this galaxy alone. One that's a little smaller than ours, I understand, and the others are even smaller. So, and then of course you have federations in other galaxies. So these are planets that group together for, for trade, for safety. There's one federation in our galaxy that during the Star Wars, they didn't want to have anything to do with us because they didn't think we were going to win the war.
Oh, okay.
And so they're kind of on their own.
And I feel like you touched on this, but you described the mothercraft.
Yeah, we can get into a description of the mothership.
I knew you were giving a description of something you made reference to, but I didn't know if we've gotten here yet about the mothership. And what is it here? Where is it?
Okay.
What's going on with the mothership here?
Okay. Anturas says, okay, first of all, what's the mothership doing? And actually, there's 25 of these motherships orbiting the Earth. They're here to take scientific readings every single day, every single hour of the Earth experiment, how we're doing with these negative energies that no one had ever been able to work with in all these trillions of universes. So we're sort of the stars of not only this universe but other universes. Of this 25 motherships that are circling the Earth, they're all masked so they don't frighten us to death. Think we're it's another Independence Day or something, and so they're masked and they're taking these millions of readings a day. Well, typically 2 of them are from other universes because these other universes are shocked as anyone that we're actually making this Earth experiment work in these 4 negative energies. And eventually, when our explorer race starts going to the stars in 3250, we're going to take tiny amounts of this negativity with us, anywhere from 0.02% to 2%, to all these planets that we go to. First, it'll be the Federation with these 20,000 planets, and they in turn, they have millions of ships, and they will take it to other places and other universes eventually. So our experiment will actually affect trillions of other universes. That's how important this experiment is. Wow. And it will help. What it will do is it's going to raise the vibrational levels of everyone. They've been stuck at about 5.2, 3, 4, somewhere in that area, and for millions of years. And they may be technologically millions of years ahead of us, but as far as vibrational wise, they're stuck, and we're going to unstick them. And they're a little concerned about that because keep in mind, 3250 may be 1,000 years for us, but it's only 100 years for them.
Oh, that's right. The difference in
or 120, whatever that is. And so they're saying, oh, it's coming faster than we think it is. So another thing that was different I found out was different in the book in order not to frighten us. Antura told me that his ship was only a mile wide and 10 stories tall or something like that. And it had a crew of 850. Now,
And is that the cigar shaped ship that you talked about in here?
it's not a cigar shape. No, it's more of a boomerang kind of shape or
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
Okay. And so the this in actuality, the ship is 3 miles wide, 20 stories tall, with 11 decks, and and a crew of 900, but also their families, and their families total up 1,500, and they're from 37 different planets. They live their whole lives on board the ship. And when I asked not too long ago about this, I was told they mostly come from planets where they live, where the lives of the people that live there are underground. They live in caverns because it's too hot to be on the surface.
Okay.
And our scientists are only looking for Earth type planets. They're not looking for planets that could actually hold life because they're living in the interior of the planet. That will have to change someday, whenever. So anyway, they have, you know, their whole families, and they live there, and they're very comfortable. It's 3 miles. That's almost like a little island, especially when you start talking about how many decks they have. Um, and then they have all these scout ships, and then they have what they call their buses, which I thought was kind of a funny term, where if they need to go down to a planet for a meeting with a lot of people, then they have these buses that can hold, I don't know,
Buses.
100 to 300 people, and they go down to a planet and have meetings and come back.
Now, how about us? I feel like, oh yeah, Terry asked how many motherships are there.
Around 25, circling, orbiting the Earth.
And do
And
we,
Earth says his is only 50 miles above. Keep in mind, our space station is 110 or 20, something.
oh, okay. And do we visit there? Like, do we go up and, like, if we're part of it, is that part of what we're doing in our sleep?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Are we
that goes in a
involved?
whole nother subject.
Oh,
Most of the
okay.
time, when we go into that quantum state, first we go to the other ends of the universe where we're helping solve problems. We're known as the big problem solvers of the universe because the explorer
Oh,
race individual can make more decisions in one day than many societies make in a whole year or 2 years. So we're the big problem solvers. And then we also, uh, we may mix in past lives. We may mix in our parallel lives. There are 12 parallel lives going on at the same time for each life we live on Earth. I have a whole chapter on that in the First Contact book.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we
And
do.
and so these scout ships go out, but they also have these drones. Now these drones, we finally have drones, but they're, as you know, powered by propeller, and actually these drones are highly advanced. They have their own little power sources, and one scout ship can handle about 22 or so of these drones, and they all go out taking all these readings all over the planet every single day, um, and and feeding these back to whatever supercomputers they have, and they share them with not only the rest of the Federation, but anyone and everyone that wants to read these readings about these, how we're doing it in these negative energies.
Now, tell us a couple little things about your stay on one of these motherships.
Okay, I haven't stayed on a mothership yet.
Oh, it says Tom's stay on the mothership. How
Oh,
long?
well, I mean, okay.
Oh, this is a future thing.
This is something coming up.
In the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell us about that. That's what we want to know.
Okay.
We want to know
So,
about that.
In 2013, just before I closed off the book to send the manuscript to my publisher, Antura had been hinting and hinting. Now, keep in mind, as I said, I have to ask specific questions. So he starts laying these little things where he's hoping I'm going to ask questions. So he's, said, well, one day you'll get to ride in my spaceship. Oh, I will. Oh, fantastic. Can we go see those ruins? Oh, yeah, yeah. Can I take some photos? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can take photos, and we go on like this, and finally, he knows I'm getting close to closing out the book, so it's like he has to hit me over the head with the 2x4, and he says, Tom, he says, because of your background in international film and TV program distribution business, and also I've co-executive produced some super low budget movies for, not huge participation, but I was involved. And he said, you and your family are going to come up to the mothership and you're going to shoot the first documentary that's ever been shot on board a mothership. And of course, that was a shock because I never even conceived that. That was just so beyond my wildest imagination. I thought, the Pleiadians were going to come down. In fact, it's in the book. Originally the Pleiadians were going to come and go to Russia, and then of course that has fallen apart since then. Um, Due to Putin going over his sole contract, way over beyond his sole contract, and he lost the chance to be known as the first world leader to welcome E.T.s to Russia. And recently, I've been communicating with a Pleiadian who's monitoring. I found out he's monitoring my conversations with Antura and his three teammates, big guy who's 7 feet tall, average guy, which is 5.5 or 6 feet, and exotic lady who has eyes that are supposedly beyond exotic, beyond cat eyes or whatever. And those are his three grassroots teammates. They're known as a grassroots first contact team. And so they're basically going to help us shoot this documentary. My daughter has a degree in film and worked as an editor out in Los Angeles before moving back and working for us. And then there's my son and my daughter's husband and my wife. And we're going to be the team, but of course we're going to have lots of help by these 4 E.T.s on board the ship to do everything. We're on the 6th timeline. I mentioned those parallel lives.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and all the timelines above us have now been to the ship, all the way down to timeline 7. And so we're next on the list, and it's supposed to happen somewhere in 2023. I hate saying April or May. That's initial. These things, as Antura says, it can change. It all depends. They're trying to get more and more people to report having these sightings of UFOs. So more and more people get used to the fact that there are ETs. We're not the only um, uh, intelligent species on the planet, or I should say in the universe. So, it's going to be interesting because I'm going to basically shoot the history. I'm going to shoot the Star Wars because they recorded everything.
Mm-hmm.
They recorded our the ETs construction of the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnons and uh, Adam and Eve, Homo sapiens, 60,000 years ago. They did all that, and they've got records of that. They have these little, it found out they had these little bitty cameras that um, exist at a frequency just above where we can see them. And so they were able to record anything and everything that happened in the development of of Homo sapiens. So I plan to take good use of it and record what they recorded.
I feel like this is going to be really important in the help in the shift of awareness and people embracing this instead of being so fearful and because when we come from that place of fear, it's automatic. Where you've seen it play out where people are like trying to shoot these ships down. Like, why would you do that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's because it's coming from a place of fear and feeling like they're not in control. So I feel like, Tom, this opportunity for you in 2023 is gonna help with that shift in
We'll see.
acceptance.
I'll have. I was asking Andrea the other day. Well, I said, "Are you going to beam down sort of like Scotty or whatever, or am I going to go in my car because they're going to introduce themselves to our family first?
Okay.
And so, or do I drive my car to a park and you get in and I take you back home?" And he said, "No, we're going to beam down." So I thought about that, and then the next week, which might have been this week, I can't remember. I said, "Okay, well, how?" He said, "We're going to hover right above your house." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "How high above? 50 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet?" He said, "More on 1,000 feet. We want to use the clouds to help mask us." And the ship is able to beam us down to your backyard, and we'll knock on your back door. So
yeah,
we'll see how that works.
So I just want to encourage everyone that the question, you guys have questions here, but literally he answers so many questions in here. I encourage you to get this and read through and but because you really deep dive on a lot of these questions that we're bringing up.
I will mention a couple of things. Number one, of course, they can go to my website, www.thegentleWayBook.com, and on the first page, you can sign up for my free newsletter. And at the same time, you can click on articles and news, and I have every newsletter I have published since 2007 archived at that space, so you can read as many of them as you want. Typically, they're 10 to 13 pages long. The one I sent out today was 11 pages. So that's you've got reading, and you can. It also has one of these little Google search boxes, and you can type in something, and it'll search and see if I've covered the subject before you send questions in. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that Amazon has been way behind in ordering. My publisher, there's the Gentle Way news.
Here's the newsletter. Yeah. So this is what it looks like, but you can go ahead and keep, and I'll just show them. This is what you get, you guys. And it has all the links in there and stuff.
Scroll on down.
So I mean, this is a lot. He puts a lot of time in this, you guys. So he, addresses questions on Ukraine and Russia, and these are all channeled, right? You get these channeled. You ask these in the.
Yeah, I call it telepathic, but call it whatever you want.
Channel.
So I mean, as an example, in this newsletter, I was told that the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica is going to drop into the sea in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And within a few months, the oceans of the world will rise 2 feet. So can you imagine? Miami's going to be an island.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a world of problems with a 2 foot wide rise in oceans. And as Gaia says, I've been telling you, Tom, for years to tell everybody to move away from the coast of the world because they're going to flood.
All right.
So the other thing is that because Amazon has been so slow, they're running out of some books. So if you can't find the book that you want, if they run out, then you can go to my publisher's website, which is www.lighttechnology, all one word, lighttechnology.com. And over on the left-hand side is a list of authors, and you can find my name, and you'll find the books there, and you can buy them directly from my publisher. One of the books I know, I think it may be the Gentle Way 3. I'm not positive. They're down to only 25 or 30 books. What happened because of the pandemic and everything? Paper got into a shortage, and my publisher is waiting for the printer down in Phoenix to get this huge load of paper in so they can start printing some books, reprinting. And so if you want, some of my books, you may need to do it fairly soon. Okay, next questions.
All right. So we're going to run through some questions here that came in while you were talking. But here, thank you, T. Barb. And just see what we have going on here. So, with your channeling or telepathy connection,
yeah. And that comes from my publisher. She said, "You're not a channel. You ask the questions yourself." Well, it's just.
Oh, I see. Okay,
that's okay. What am I? Oh, I think I'm a telepath. All right.
Oh, okay. So you're receiving these messages. You're asking the questions, and they answer. Are you connected with anybody that that is receiving messages that are similar to yours as well? So do you collaborate with others that are receiving messages that?
I try not to very much. I try not to be too influenced by what I'm receiving. There are some things that come up. Oh yeah, that's exactly what
you
I got too.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But
I would assume because that there would be more than that. They would be talking to more than one person here to bring in this type of understanding and answers and messages. If there's other people that are doing that too.
Oh.
Right.
No, I mean, there's always backups. Now, as an example, look what happened because of Putin messing up. The Pleiadians will not appear first before I have, I do the documentary. And see, that documentary is going to will be probably 2 full-length theatrical documentaries, and probably at least 100-episode series where I explore all these different histories from the Hindu history and Christian histories, and you name all the histories, we'll probably explore them along with all the extra history. So there's got to be at least probably 100 episodes in that, is my estimation. And that's simply going from what from my experience in, film distribution.
Awesome. Another question came in regards to have some of the reptilians progressed?
Yeah, any of the reptilians that are taking part in the Earth experiment, they say are raising their vibrational levels, and when they go back to their home planets, they will help their planets raise their vibrational levels.
Okay.
Now, hopefully, that will be enough that after this Earth experiment is over in 7,000 Earth years, okay, they get 7,000 Earth years, not 7,000 universal years. I better check on that for sure.
Getting
But I was told 7,000 years. And at the end of the 7,000 years, I'm supposed to be in charge of a cleanup crew that it will be just a small group of us that will finish cleaning up the planet, however we do that, so that it goes back to a pristine level, pristine appearance. And there will be tourists from not only all over this universe, but even other universes that will come to see the most beautiful planet in this whole universe, with all this huge variety of life and everything. And also will experience a very tiny bit of negativity, just so they know a little bit about what it feels like.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Can you tell us when we may be presented with an actual meeting of an ET? Holly wants to know.
I think that's up in the air, because the Palladian that I'm talking to does one meeting a month with he and a group of Pleiadians. I think there's like 4 or 5, and they meet with these scientists from 6 different countries once a month. Now, keep in mind that's once a month Earth time, so it's pretty fast for them. And so each one of these countries has no idea that the Pleiadians are meeting with these other countries. They just think they're only meeting with them, and these are our scientists trying to back engineer all these ET craft that crashed in the last 50 years. And we've progressed to the point where we do have anti-gravity ships, but they don't have the power to go past our atmosphere. The Pleiadians make sure that they've got a governor on them.
Oh, okay.
And so I even asked recently. I said, "Well, have they asked anything about the Pleiades?" And he said, "Yeah, every once in a while somebody will ask a question." And I said, "Well, have they ever asked anything about the Federation?" He said, "Oh, never." He said, "These guys are mostly younger souls, and all they're mostly interested in is gaining as much information as they possibly can in the time allotted to them." So that's
got it. Yeah.
So when the Pleiadians finally decide, the Pleiadians are the ones that have been dragging their feet in letting humans know about them. They're scared because of the things that happened, because E.T.s were involved in giving this free energy that we discussed last time to the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, and they destroyed themselves. They're scared to death that somehow something simple they might do for us might backfire and it'd destroy everybody again. So they really drag their feet. The Syrians, on the other hand, are showing them, by starting on the upper timelines and working down, that everybody is just curious. They're highly curious. And it's just that on our timeline, we're like at least 2 or 4 years behind some of the upper timelines. So they're a lot farther ahead of us in accepting ETs. But we're getting there. It's just that we're doing it at a slower rate than I'd like.
Okay. Are there hybrid human reptilians, or is that just conspiracy theory?
Yeah, conspiracy.
Okay, so, all right. Now, I wanted to end on this question here. And I'll put it up here. And Terry's asking, will we create a new universe in the future when we connect?
We're going to take over running this universe. I did ask not too long ago. Well, I said, I've been told that all these trillions of creators that the creator of creators has birthed, every single one of them has a different interest. I said, what will our interest be when we become a creator? And I was told that's what we all are sitting on the sidelines wondering, because nobody knows, because it's never been done before. But once you meld together, it's like in an instant, you will have your own interests. But it'll be certainly running the universe, but we're going to run it different than Creator has run it in some form or fashion.
Oh, interesting.
Hopefully we take it to a higher level ourselves.
Great question.
And I might add, there are 3 universes that are adjacent to our universe. One of the universes we can see in our night sky, and we think it's part of our universe. But once this telescope, what's the name of the telescope?
Oh,
okay. Anyway, the big telescope, the new telescope. Once it gets going, it's going to eventually see that there is a void out in space that runs like a line, and it's several million miles wide.
Hubble.
It divides our universe.
Is it Hubble?
From the next, it's not the Hubble, that's the old one.
Oh, James Webb.
James Webb, thank you.
Yep.
So the James Webb will eventually see this dividing line, and eventually they'll figure it out, especially when they start looking over on the other side of the dividing line. The galaxies over there are going to be entirely different than our galaxies.
Okay. All right. Well, Sue Ellen is saying, I tried your prayer with remarkable result. I feel the prayer clears the energy field around me. Wonderful discovery. And she wants you to ask your publisher to make your books available in electronic formats. And the only reason I bring this one up here is because every time I have you on, people are asking you for that.
For what?
So, for electronic formats.
Oh, you can find that on Amazon at any
Okay,
time.
so the electronic ones are on Amazon, and I mean audio books.
The Audible ones, there's only one that's been made so far, because the company that did the Audible hasn't made enough money on the Audible. Now, maybe if a couple of thousand people order the audio book, they'll say, maybe we'll do another book, and we'll go from there. But so far, only the General Way one is audio.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we want more audios. Yeah. So the Kindle formats you can find on Amazon. And we've had so many wonderful comments throughout this while you were talking, Tom, about the embryos. Mm-hmm. And how wonderful it is. People are adding it into their own daily lives, and how wonderful it is for them. So I just wanted to share that.
And people that maybe have not seen that interview that you did, where you hold up the General Way 3.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It is there. You can deep dive on the General Way process itself. Mm-hmm. And I know last time I looked, you had over 7,500 or more. Yeah, the General Way 3, or more people that had watched that.
You did. Yeah. Thank you, Marie. Hugging you. That was so kind. There was one more thing I wanted. Oh, someone wanted to have a better, clearer understand on can I pray using the prayer for other people? Yeah, this is the one. And I know we've talked about it, but I just want to address it because I feel that's important. She says, can I pray using the prayer for benevolent outcome for other people? And I know you have another name for it, P.
Yeah, it's called the benevolent prayer. It's what you say for other people because there's a different, your guardian angels handle the MBOs for you, but for other people, it's a benevolent prayer and it's handled by like a million whole souls that we call angels, and they do nothing but answer all prayers on earth. So for them, you would say, like, let's take that pet, and you'd say, I ask any and all beings to aid and assist in finding my lovable dog that's lost. Thank you. So you say it a little different because it goes to different people,
Beautiful.
different beings.
And here is the other book, Atlantis and Lemuria, if you missed that one. And then, of course, the one we discussed today.
Yep.
So,
please
Terry,
understand, everybody, that there's a lot of people in the world that they really believe in UFOs and E.T.s, but they're oh, those are woo-woo folks, that believe in souls and creators and whatever. But in the future, I'm told that those two camps are going to go together as we learn more about how things actually exist.
I feel like it's already starting, Tom. I feel like it's already starting to do a little bit of that.
Well, when you start believing in ETs, you start saying, well, I was taught that we're the only ones in the universe, but here are all these other people. Something's wrong here. I need to fix it.
Thank you, Terry. Blessings to you. So, so if you haven't caught our other discussions, please check out my channel and go back and watch those, because it's all different information that he's brought for us each time. And we are so grateful to you, Tom, for bringing us this information and insight. And don't forget to sign up for his newsletter. And I put the link in the chat there. It's pinned at the top, so it's there. You just click on it, go in and sign up for his newsletter.
And please do try. If you can't figure it out any other way, you can send an email to me, but it typically can take me a week or two to finally enter it, because I have to enter those by hand.
By hand, yeah.
It's a very slow process. Okay.
So Sunny says she signed up but hasn't received. Did those newsletters go out today, Tom? The new one
went out today. I don't know if they're still being sent out. The email list has grown so much that maybe sending them out till midnight or something. So if you haven't gotten it in the next day or two, you can always send me an email and I'll check to make sure you weren't blacklisted. That happens.
And check your check your junk mail as well. That happens, especially when you're getting something new. Yeah. So make sure you check your junk mail or your social mail as well. It can get put somewhere else.
And some places are really bad about spam blockers. And if a spam blocker blocks the newsletter 3 times in a row, you'll be blacklisted. So you need to enter
spam blocker. Okay, check your spam folders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Tom. And I do want to give a big shout out to my moderators here, T-Barb, Viviane, Pamela, all of you all. Thank you for your extra care today. So giving you all big hugs. And the whole family here. Big hug, everyone. Great discussion,
My heart to
Tom.
everybody, a most benevolent outcome for everybody. And thank you so much for having me on, Debbie. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, Melody's
And much
asking.
to everybody.
So thegentleway.com, I just have to say it one more time because people are still asking about it before we hang up here. Thegentlewaybook.com is where you want to go,
Put
guys.
book in there.
All right. So blessings to you all, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.